This is Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Laura Peterson from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you should call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So I've got a lot of great things that I'm going to talk to you about today, and I'm going to start out with going over the stats like I do every week. And basically, last week, there were quite a few houses that sold 401, and that was up from 250 the week before, because you got to remember the week before was Thanksgiving. The odd thing, it was Thanksgiving and the end of the month, but it was so maybe that's why we're a little bit more now. The median price of single family homes was $445,000, which is quite a bit up. It's been hovering around 420, 430. So 445 is quite an increase when you come looking at that. Of those 401 houses, 28 of them were under 250, 38 between 250 and 300, 91 between 300 and 400, 90 between 400 and 500, 132 between 500 and a million, and 22 over a million. The months of inventory is sitting at 4.42 overall. A normal market is between 4 and 6. And 4.08 under 250, 2.74 between 250 and 300, and then 4.2, 4.17, 4.7, and then 8 over a million. List to ask price ratio is hovering right there at 97.24, pretty similar to what it's been quite a bit of time. And so under 250, though, they were at 93.03. Over a million was at 96.15. 250 to 300 was also a little low at 95.93. Then all the rest were at 98 across the board. So basically, in those lower brackets, and now under 300 is becoming under a lower bracket as well. And so that's very interesting to me that looking at that's kind of happening. So our prices are going up, and that's something that I think is really interesting and good to know. Basically, the bottom line is that a lot of people are kind of hanging out there going, well, I'm waiting for the prices to fall or the interest rates to fall. And I was talking to somebody earlier this week, and I said, if it were me and I was going to be getting into a house, I think that I would, first of all, look at it and say, where do I want to be a year from now? Do I want to be where I'm at right now, or would I rather be in a new location? And most of the people that I'm talking to, they're like, well, I'd rather be in a new location. Well, if you're waiting for the prices to fall and or the interest rates to fall, first of all, I'm not sure that that's going to happen, either one of them. The chances are probably higher of the interest rates falling than the house prices falling, in my opinion. Basically, from what we've seen recently is that the housing prices have, in Central Florida, they've stayed very similar, for the last 3 years. Ever since the interest rates went up, the prices kind of froze there, but they've gone up, 2 or 3%, but not a whole lot, so they've consistently done that. So they've gone up a little bit, but basically the bottom line is that when you're looking at it, and the inventory has definitely increased, and if the interest rates go down, we're going to have the type of situation that we had right after the pandemic in 2021, let's say somewhere around there, when the interest rates were still low. What happened was that the inventory got crazy, and there was not any opportunity. Oh my gosh, I think, I don't know what's going on there, but basically, something's going on with my screen in back of me. So anyway, basically what happened was that the interest rates went up. The prices remained the same, is basically what happened, or they went up crazy too. So then when the interest rates went up, the prices stayed the same, and they've stayed the same ever since. Now they have gone up like 3 to 5% and that every year, but they haven't had a big jump, is basically what's happened. So as a result of that, what has happened is that the inventory has started to rise because the number of houses selling has actually kind of been cut in half from what it was going on at that time. So I think that there's a lot of pent up demand in regards to buyers that really would like to be somewhere else, but they're kind of waiting to see if the interest rates are going to go down or if the prices are going to go down. Like I said, if the prices were going to go down, I think they already would have done that, and they haven't done that. So I don't expect the prices to go down. But the interest rates, they have fallen for the second week in a row. I believe they're right around 6.5 now. And so that's definitely an improvement. But my prediction is if the interest rates do go down significantly, like going down to where they were, back in 2021, then what's going to happen is there's going to be a frenzy of people wanting to buy again. And as a result of that, it's going to be multiple offer situations. It's going to be where, you're going to have to bid above appraisal and look at it that way. So if it were me, which is a long way of saying what I was starting to say probably 3 minutes ago, is that I would go ahead and you can purchase now and then you can always refinance later. So if you refinance later, then you're going to be able to have the best of both worlds, right? You're going to be able to afford the house that you can get now at a higher interest rate. But then if the interest rates happen to go down, you can save yourself a few $100s by doing that, because the interest rate, the difference in your payment would be potentially maybe a few $100s. So it could be a win-win situation, and then you're not going to have to fight everybody for those houses like what was going on in 2021. And the study came out that said that 80% of the buyers that bought during that time frame wished they wouldn't have bought the house that they bought, but they just felt like, if I don't buy this house, I'm not going to have anything, so I have to do it. And you can tell that there are more people that would buy if the conditions were right, because we're selling half of the houses that we were selling back then, 50% of the number. So that's the only thing that has changed. And as a result of that, the inventory has risen because just as many sellers wanted to sell, but they haven't done it. And you might think, why would they sell if they've got a great interest rate? Which for a lot of them, it comes down to lifestyle, that maybe, they either want to upsize, they want to downsize, or they've got, kids that are moving somewhere and they want to move with them. There's a lot of that kind of thing going on. So there's a lot of things that enter into the picture when it comes to whether people want to buy or sell or what's happening. So I think it's really good to just look at the whole big picture. So let me go through condos, townhomes, and villas really quickly. And there were 102 that sold last week. It was 70 the week of Thanksgiving. And the median price is $292. Which to me, that's pretty high. The inventory increased by 58 and it's at 38.45. So when we're looking at them and seeing kind of what the scoop is with that, is that there were the 102, like we said, that sold, but the overall months of inventory is 8.7 versus the 4s for the single family homes. The between 250 and 300, it's 6.67 this week, which is a little bit lower than it was. You're at 10 months of inventory under 250 and 400 to 500. And 18 months of inventory between 500 and a million, and over a million, there weren't any of them that sold. So there's no months on that, but there's 18 available. 500 to a million, there were 4 of them that sold, 10 between 400 and 500, 35 between 3 and 400, 20 between 250 and 300, and 33 under 250. So basically their list to ask price, though, was a pretty similar, 96.93 versus 97 on the single family homes. So when you're looking at it, basically there's some similarities, but there's definitely some differences, and real estate is very local. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we'll see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Laura Peterson. I'm your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio, and I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So you're probably thinking, if you were listening to the last segment, that you were going, well, what happened in the middle of it there where I was like saying something was going off on my monitor or something like that. And what I've done the last few weeks is that I've actually recorded the show on my phone, as well as recording it, here for the podcast and everything, because I wanted to do the video. So I've got a monitor in the back of me with the logo and all of that kind of good stuff on it. And every time that I've done it, I've never had any trouble in the past with keeping the logo on the screen. And what happened today is that, unbeknownst to me, is that the remote ended up down by my feet. And so as a result of that, the monitor was going off, and I could see it, when I was looking at the screen in regards to what was going on, and I was like, what's happening back there? So it was kind of scattered on that. So I apologize for that. But there's lots of great real estate news that we're going to be getting to right now. And right now we're going to be talking about the starter home prices that have seen the largest increase in the last few years. That Florida starter home prices have jumped since 2018, with rising rates and investor competition making it more difficult for first-time buyers. And I do believe that this is true, that there are difficulties sometimes for first-time buyers to get your foot in the door. And I think that the most important thing for first-time buyers to recognize and realize is that you're not necessarily going to get your long-term dream home on your first purchase. Very few people do that. Most of the time it's a stepping stone, and that you're going to get that first home is going to be, 90%, 80% of what you want. And then as you grow both financially and in age and everything, and as your family grows, then you're going to change it out. But the good thing to do is to get in the door, because let me tell you why. Between 2018 and 2024, October of 2024, they're saying right here that the prices for the starter homes in Florida doubled. They doubled. So basically, they're the ones seeing the biggest increase. So when we're looking at the median price being 440,000 or 52,000, I think it was this week. Basically, when we're looking at that, part of what's bringing that up is that the starter home is a lot more expensive as well. So, I've been selling real estate for a long time, since 2005. And so I've seen the market go up, and then I saw it go down in 2008, kind of bottomed out in 2010. And we've kind of been climbing a little bit here and there, throughout from 2010. And so it was a nice natural progression of increase. And then after the pandemic, the market just kind of shot up quite a bit. And then after that kind of settled down, we've just kind of stayed the same, and we've moved incrementally, but not hugely. And so I was thankful for that, because we didn't have the big decrease. But what happened is that we did stabilize, because we went up too fast, in my opinion, for it to maintain itself. So always when that happens, there's some kind of correction. And our correction in Central Florida was just that the prices stabilized. They didn't fall. Now, in some neighborhoods they did, and some places they did, and but for the most part they stayed pretty consistent. And one of the things that I found that I find that's very interesting is that we're always looking at, for the starter people, first time buyers, and where can you go or what can you do? And there is a lot of new home construction out there for the first time buyer. I talked a little bit about it last week, but there is a loan program out there through one of the local banks that basically they can give you 100% financing in the counties. They are, regardless of what your income level is. I mean, you have to have a 660 credit score, is what they were telling me. And, I'm not sure 100% what the interest rates are, and you've got to have the ratios and all that kind of good stuff. But, you as a first time buyer can get into some homes with 100% financing. Now, there are some opportunity zone. They're not really opportunity zones, but it's something to do with the census that came out with where these locations are. And so there's some that are 100 and some that are at 97, and it's not all houses, but there are some houses that are available for that. So, if you're a veteran, then you can usually get 100% financing pretty much everywhere with the VA loan. But if you're not a veteran, a lot of times it's hard to find those 100% loans. So they do exist out there. There are qualifications for them. And so we would have to run the numbers and see what works. But basically, it's good to know that there are opportunities out there for people if that's what you want to do. And so, the impact is out there for first-time buyers. But, in this particular market, because there is more inventory, then the bottom line is that there are sellers that will give concessions. So what that means is that they may pay part of your closing costs. So if you are going to get, perhaps an FHA or a conventional 3% loan, then what may happen is that you would have to come up with that 3 or 3.5%, but the seller may pay all the other closing costs that you would have, and that would include like your insurance for the first year and your costs of the loan and some of those fees and everything that come down to it. So all you have to come to closing with is that 3%. So there are those kinds of deals out there. And so if you're going into a rental situation and you have to come up with first, last, and, the security deposit, many times you could buy a house for less than what you have to do for renting. Now, the only thing is that you have to plan a little bit more in advance than you do for a rental. Because for rentals, obviously you have to, a lot of times people are last minute. When you're getting a call from them, it's like, they're like, well, I'm ready to move in like 2 days and everything. And you need a little bit more time for a single family home if you're going to be doing that. So that basically is what's going on when it comes to that. U.S. home buying demand remains high. They found that more buyers are in the market because they have accepted mortgage rates will remain above 6% for the foreseeable future, among other reasons. So I think it comes down to a lot of times that you're like, okay, I'm tired of paying those rates of the rentals, and it's just time to go ahead and do it. And so you want to make sure that you can do it. And basically that there are the year over year change in pending sales is that Orlando was down 2.7% this year over last year. And, we did have lower listings last year too. They were down 5.5%. But our inventory is still up. So remember, I told you the only factor that really changed through everything was basically the number of houses that sold on a particular week. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. This is Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Laura Peterson, and I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And in order to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I ran into this week was people were asking the question, should they remodel or move, and how to decide. And deciding between remodeling or moving, consider factors like cost, time, risk and return on investment. Emotional components also matter. And one of the things that I found with people is that I was talking to a lady this week that she really, she had her house on the market for 8 months, and she had very few showings. And so, it ended up expiring, and then but she did want to move. And unfortunately for her is that she already had a new job lined up. It was in a new city. Well, now she lives in St. Cloud, and it was in Palm Bay. So it wasn't like she was going to drive, on a daily basis to her new job. So what ended up happening is that she let the new job go and was stuck here because she couldn't move. And she couldn't move her house. And so ultimately, she didn't want to do that. Now, the other thing that's going on with her is that she has some extenuating circumstances at home that she definitely wants to be there when they're going to be showings, or, not be there, but just, be there right after and all of that kind of stuff because of some of the people that are in her household. And so as a result of that, it made it really difficult to show the house. And I wasn't the one who was marketing it or anything like that either. But basically, the bottom line is that what happened is that the house didn't sell. And so I had reached out to her and said, hey, I've got some other alternatives and that kind of thing. And that's what we're kind of looking at now. Now, the bottom line is that when I talked to her and she said, I don't want to, be here another 8 months waiting for somebody to come along. And I told her, I said, you don't have to be, that we have these other alternatives. And so that's absolutely, what we're doing. And so what she's pretty solid and set on doing, we're getting the final offers in now, is that she is going to sell her house to one of these cash offer investors. And you might think, wow, like how does that work or whatever? And it works really well. And what happens is that we simply take your house, we put it in to our proprietary software, and we are able to get between 6 and 10 offers on your house immediately. So you don't have to worry about showings or anything like that. People are coming in. Now, there are different scenarios in how they all work. Some of them are straight cash offers, which we had. And then there were a couple of them that were, a two-step offer. We call it cash and sell. And basically what happens is that the company comes in and they give you about 80% of your profits now. They give you 80% of the value of the home right now. They hold 20% of it in escrow, and then they sell it. And then once they sell it, then they give you the other 20%. If it sells for maybe 22% more than, than what they figured, or, it sells for more, then you get that money in their pocket. And if it sells for less, then it kind of goes the other way too. But they also make sure that your house is in show-ready condition, that nobody's living there, that it's very easy to show, and you're not going to have any issues with that. And so with that, it ends up being a really good deal, for the seller. So this lady who, one of her family members, has some challenges that really doesn't like to be around people, it takes that away from it. It gets it completely out of out of that system, and so they're able to go ahead and do that. Now, when I was talking about remodeling or whether you want to move, another one of these offers that we have is actually a company that comes in there. And what they do is that they will actually come in with myself and their project manager, and we will go through the house with the seller and say, hey, we think that we could bring in another $10,000 if we change this kitchen counter out to granite. We can bring in another $20,000 if we changed out all the flooring, and that was going to cost us like $3,000 or whatever. So we go through that and we determine, what makes sense to go ahead and do when it comes to the remodels on this house. And then you just go ahead and you list it regularly like you would, but the house is completely remodeled. And the great news about it is that you don't have to pay any of those remodeling costs until the closing table. So the company, absorbs all the cost and they do everything. They just get paid when it sells. And so it's a complete win-win situation. So we have so many options for sellers today that it's not even funny. And I read an article, I think it was probably about 6 or 7 years ago, and it said that they predicted by 2025 that there would be, a third party that would be involved in most sales transactions. And that's exactly what this is. So depending on what your situation is, we've had multiple people that, they just don't want to go through the headaches of remodeling. They don't want to go through the costs of remodeling, but they know that if they do that, they would be able to get more money for their house. So instead of selling it for maybe 70% of the value to an investor, you actually get an opportunity to use somebody else's money to make your house look better and then get more money for it. So it's a complete win-win situation. So when you're looking at that, I think that it just comes down to being creative and figuring out what's going to be best for you and your family. And like I said, the thing that I think is the number one question to ask people is, if it's a year from now, where do you want to be? Do you want to be where you are now, or do you want to be in somewhere else? Do you want to be in a house that's remodeled now, or do you want to be somewhere else? So when you're looking at remodeling and you're going to stay there, then you need to look at the money, the time, the stress, and the risk of actually doing it, that and return on investment. Now, when we have this company come in and we're looking at the return on investment, they're only going to suggest that they do, as would I, the things that are really going to make a difference for you for your investment. They're not going to make a difference. They're not going to say, hey, let's do this, and know that it's not going to bring in the money. So you want to make sure that when you're doing the remodeling for the sale, that it's actually that you're doing the things that are going to make a difference. And, it's like everybody's different in regards to what they think and what they know and all of that kind of good stuff. And basically, you want to have your house that appeals to the most people, because when it appeals to the most people, then guess what? That means that you're going to get what you want. And that's absolutely what it's all about. So when we're looking at it, we want to make sure that you get what you're looking for when it comes to selling your house. That it's like, if you want to do it with certainty, if you want to do it with less hassle. I mean, obviously there's fees and everything for all of that kind of stuff. But if you look at it apples to apples and say, okay, I'm willing to give up $2,000 to not have to do it this way, or $3,000 or $10,000, whatever the number is. But you can look at it with your eyes wide open going, okay, I have all of these options of what I can do with my house. And if I've got all these options, then this is what I want to do. And that's what we bring to the table, is we bring you options to decide what's best for you and your family in order to sell your home, if that's what you need to do, or you want to do, or you want to move somewhere else, or you want to stay where you're at. But really looking at your options, and that's what I really like about what I do, is being able to offer that for people, and it just makes it all great. So in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you after the break. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Laura Peterson, your host of Central Florida Real Estate Radio. I'm from Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, and to discuss the sale of your home, you can call or text 407-566-2555. That's 407-566-2555. So one of the things that I'm always looking at, and that people sometimes ask me, is, who do you like to work with? Do you like to work with buyers, or do you like to work with sellers, or who do you like to work with? And honestly, I like to work with both. So my best clients, the ones that I work really well with, are the ones that have a house to sell but are also buying. And, there's a couple things that I like to do about both of them. And the number one thing when it comes to people selling their house is that to be able to bring all the things to the table, like we just talked about, that you've got several options that you can choose from. I just think that's great, that's really fun and everything to do that. But then the second thing that I get to do when it comes to and then having success with selling the house, obviously. But then the second thing that I get to do is I also get to come to the table and work with people to find that next property that they want. And I was talking to some of my agents, a couple of days ago, and the thing that I was telling them is I said, the thing to me that is really, really important and why I like working with people to help them find a home is because it's really fun to actually listen to what they want and then find them what it is that they're telling you. And a lot of times you're not listening to the words that they're saying as much as their reactions when they're seeing properties and all of that kind of thing in regards to what they want. Case in point is there was this couple that said, we want a one-story home. That's it. That's the only thing that we want to look at. Don't even think about showing us two-story homes or anything like that. And so, I said, okay. So I went ahead and, showed them one-story homes. And then they went to an open house and there was a two-story home. And they're like, we think we like this one. We want it. So would you think that they're not telling the truth originally? No, they were very truthful in what they wanted at that point in time. But they hadn't had their eyes open to see what the other possibilities are. And so, basically when it comes down to it, listening and hearing and interpreting what people say is one of my favorite things to do. Because in today's day and age, a lot of buyers out there think that they can just go to the internet, and when they go to the internet that they're going to be able to find all of the houses that are available in the house that they want, and they don't really need anybody else to help them or anything like that. But the thing that they don't know is that there's some things that could be negotiated, even in a new home, that they wouldn't be able to get. Some people that I was working with on a new home, we were talking to the salesperson, and I said, okay, what else can I get them? And so I was able to upgrade their appliance package by another $10,000. There were some other things that I was able to get them in amenities, and that you can't always get money off of the house because they want that house to appraise the same way the next house is going to appraise. And so if they undercut you on price, then that's going to be a problem. But if they undercut you on amenities that you get with the house or upgrades or closing costs or anything like that, then that's something that they'll do all day long. And so basically, knowing how to negotiate that stuff, I actually saved these people in the neighborhood of $15,000 by working with me as opposed to going directly to the builder. So when it comes down to it, it's like there are definite advantages to working with a buyer's agent to find out what it is. And, to this day, I've sold thousands of homes, and basically there is only 3 people that I can think of that actually found the home without me, that they didn't find it without me because I was right there with them, but they found it online and said, hey, I want to see this house. Because when I'm working with a buyer, if you're looking for houses, which you soon realize you don't have to, but if you're looking for houses, what happens is that, you say, hey, I want to see ABC or 123 Main Street and 125 Main Street and all of that. And I'm like, okay, how much time do you have? And so then and I say, and I'm going to pick a few homes to look at as well based on what you've told me. And they're like, okay, great. And so what happens is that they like the houses I picked better than the houses they picked. And many times they were houses that they looked at, but they discarded for one reason or another. But I was listening to what they said, and I can see beyond the pictures that might be online or the descriptions that might be online. When I'm actually understanding what a buyer wants, then that's absolutely, my fastball, where it comes to that I can understand what they want and find them that property. And one of the things that we do at Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty is that we find houses for people that are not even on the market many times. And so they're out there looking, and and they feel like the ones that they're seeing are all picked over, that they've been there for a long time, or the new ones to the market, they're gobbled up really quick. And so they're feeling like they're left out. So what we do, regardless of the market, is I always find off-market properties as well. And we do that by canvassing the sellers in the area, because I tell everybody, if you were looking at, say you told me, hey, I want that pink house on the corner. That's a perfect house for me. I like the wraparound porch. I like the size of it from what I can see. I've seen pictures of it on the internet when it sold 5 years ago and all of that kind of stuff. And you're like, I want that house. Well, if I never approached that owner to see if they were willing to sell it, and you went ahead and you settled for a house that was a little ways away from there and had 90%, but maybe not 100% of what you wanted. And then the day after you closed, that house went on the market. How would you feel? You'd be pretty upset about it, right? You'd be, gosh, I wish that I would have known that they were going to put their house on the market now, because I would have waited. And so, with the systems that we have, we flush those people out. For example, there is a property that this gentleman told me that he wanted for him and his family, and he said, and there were only 19 of them that exist, because he wanted a specific street and neighborhood that was around this square, and and there were townhouses, and he wanted this townhouse, and there were only 15 of them that exist. That's it. So, or 19 of them, excuse me. So I canvassed all of those 19 people. I had 3 of them, of the 19, that said, yeah, we're interested, because, they weren't necessarily a hurry in regards to when they wanted to purchase. They were okay with that. They were willing to pay top dollar. They actually wanted to have a home that was not remodeled, because they wanted to do that themselves. And so, it made it perfect that when I found the house, that they had bought it 20 years ago, they really hadn't done any upgrades to it. They had raised their family. They were moving up to northern Florida. And so it was a perfect situation for them. But do you think you can find that that you're going to find that on your own? Probably not. So that's basically, one of the things that I find that I do, that I really enjoy about everything that is going on in making it happen and everything like that, because finding that needle in the haystack is really, what I'm really good at. And so, like I said, back in 2021, when the market was going like hotcakes and there was no inventory and people were paying $50,000 above asking price, and they weren't appraising at that, so you had to have whatever your loan amount was that you had to bring plus another $50,000 to get a house. And a lot of people were really discouraged through that. Well, guess what? I found houses for people that were not in that frenzy. So when I had people that responded to me, we were the only ones in the game. And it's that way, whether there's a lot of houses on the market or a little, because every market is just a microcosm, because they're very small. It's like every particular neighborhood is what somebody wants. And so what we want to do is make sure that we've got all of the tools and everything out there to make sure that you find that perfect house that you want. Now, if you say, hey, I want it anywhere in Orlando, that makes it really difficult for me to canvass all those people. But it's like when we hone in on a neighborhood, we can definitely make it happen. And that's what we love to do. And I do it every day. And it's why I enjoy being a realtor, why I enjoy working with all of you. And I always look forward to it, because it's so fun to get to know the families and all of that, and what you're looking for and what's most important to you. What are the things that you don't care about, but what are the must-haves that are absolutely critical. And so we take all that into account when we're working with you to make sure that we get exactly what you're looking for. And that's what I like. That's what I like to do. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. But in order to get in touch with us, you can call or text 407-566-2555. You can find us online at centralfloridarealestateradio.com, and we will see you next week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye-bye.